Écoute. J'ai un truc pour faire passer ton hoquet. Retiens ta respiration pendant 30 secondes.
The writing was very effective in how it tied a passionate relationship in with COVID-19. The close-ups of the faces of the main performers were so intimate, you could really sense their passion for each other. The synth soundtrack added to the excitement and kept me on edge. I thought the direction and pace were excellent too. The real footage of the plane crashing was terrifyingly effective. It tied in well with the rather philosophical discussion of the black box.
The chemistry between them is powerful. They discuss everything about planes. At some point, she's comparing herself to an indestructible black box. And it makes me ponder, and as they ponder why the whole plane isn't made of a black box, which is really this age-old question, it really makes me wonder why all this alluding to a crash. So we have footage of the plane crashes, which looks like collections of historical footage from actual plane crashes, taken from old camera footage. And so I'm like, all this alluding to the crash, will there be one in the relationship is what makes me think midway through. And then we see it all come crashing down. We see that this is all an illusion. When I leave this piece, I'm not sure who is the illusion. Is it her? Is it him? Is it both of them? Is this all an illusion that we are witnessing? I just thought that was very interesting. And because the relationship was just so passionate, I just knew that it was going to come, to a halt in some way, shape, or form, because the analogy to the crash was just too apparent.
This had some really fantastic cinematography in it. The director of photography really understood lighting and how to get such beautifully crisp, clear shots in low light, all sorts of different light. The story for this in the beginning, it was a little bit confusing, but as it went on, I started to catch up and I started to go, oh, okay, I understand what they're doing now. So it was a little bit of like you were going forward and then back and then forward and then back within the story. And I liked the actors. I thought that both actors did a really fantastic job. I understood what the story was, and I thought that the story was there.
I really enjoy the relationship between these in this couple, how they meet, how they just stay together, and then the quarantine comes, and then become crazier and crazier and crazier until the violent ending, and all is left is memories, like a black box, indeed, After a plane crash, there's nothing else left. It's just the last minutes, the last recording before the crash, and that's what happens here. It's just memories of the last. Even though it was a long relationship, then they always come to just the last part, the part where they split up. So I think it was a very well done short with a great performances and a very good direction.
This was a cinematic experience. It really encapsulated the intimacy brought between the two, where immediately as the audience grabbed, emotionally gripping, like right away, we are kind of hit with the COVID-19 epidemic and how it reflected in our relationships. And as some relationships heated up and blossomed and were passionate and were born, there's also the ends. And we kind of see them in different ways of sharing passion and intimacy and growing the relationship forward. I really liked the dialogue, the connection. The two actors, the characters they created were really creative and engaging. I felt like the way the music, cinematography, and the actors, the locations, all of it was pretty cohesive and really brought together an overall, engaging piece.
Long distance relationships are hard. They are very hard. And a global pandemic most definitely made it that much harder. It's such an interesting concept that I haven't seen made into a film yet, and I hadn't even considered uh, just how stressful it would be to maintain a long distance relationship, because I've witnessed firsthand it was very hard for many people to even maintain their close distance relationships because of just how hard it was to travel, how hard it was to even see people uh, during the lockdown, and to add that extra leverage of just how hard it would have been to travel internationally during that time. Uh, I'm sure there's a lot of relationships that unfortunately underwent that same fate.
The fact that this ends the same way that it begins still makes it nonetheless shocking. You're hoping she's actually crying over a broken heart, and really she's just a victim, it seems. It's one of those things that you weren't expecting. Even though the film started with her crying and him telling her how to get rid of her hiccups, it's one of those things you still didn't expect with this film at all. There were so many twists and turns. There were times it was hard to understand and why it had anything to do with a black box. Especially when it has facts at the beginning, you were thinking they were going to start delving into some conspiracy theories. But really, this is not unexpected at all. It's not the story you expect from the beginning. It just continues into something that becomes a very gripping story, because you feel very hard for this girl, that she's just a victim of this guy. His tattoos show how many girls he gathers, and then just gets a tattoo of his conquest. You feel really, really bad for her.